Hello, my friends. It's Christine Vicente with Queen City Stamp Art, and I'm back today with a clean and simple Sunday card. This week, I'm going to be using Sparkle of the Season bundle, and I have actually used this before. I used this a couple weeks ago to make a Halloween card using the little swirly here and some of the dies. And I'm going to be doing something similar today, but we're going to be making a Thanksgiving card to show you some of the extra versatility of this bundle. So we're going to be using the stamp that says Thankful for You. No other stamped images on this one for today, but I'm using that stamp. And then I'm going to be using the dies. So I'm going to be using this beautiful leaf die, and I'm going to be using some of the extra little leaves on here. So those are the two dies I'm going to be using from this bundle. Then I'm also going to be using the Ornate Frames dies, and I have chosen a panel here, this little one right here, to create the little sentiment panel for the card today. It's just really pretty. It has some extra little pierced details, and it's a pretty shape, and I just thought that would be fun to use with this. So it's a bit of a variety, but that's what we're using. So we're going to start this card by using a basic white thick cardstock base, and I cut it to, it measured 11 by 4 1/4, and then I scored it at 5 1/2, and I have a top folding base card. Then I'm going to take this panel of Pool Party, and I'm going to use my regular tape runner adhesive and glue this to the base card. Now, you could run this panel through your embossing folder, and your die cutting machine, and it would make a beautiful texture underneath. I did not do that for this card, but that would be a fun way to bump it up a little bit without getting too crazy. We're going to layer. I cut two of the same exact wreath, but I cut them in different colors. So one of them is in Crumb Cake and the other one is in Pale Papaya. And I'm just going to take some of my wet adhesive, and I'm going to just add a few little dots of this. Like literally, I'm barely squeezing the tube because this can come out kind of quick. And I'm just putting it on the leaves and any of the areas where it's a little thicker. And I'm going to lay this down onto my card base here, like that. And I'm centering it side to side and sort of putting it a little bit more toward the top. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Pale Papaya wreath. Just a few dots of glue here. It doesn't take much to hold this down. And this glue is awesome. It's so good. And for this one, I'm going to just kind of offset it. I don't want it to line up. So I'm going to offset this so that the leaves are in different spots. And I'm just going to overlap it like that. I'll just put my ink pad on it for a minute. So we're going to be using Soft Suede ink and that little Thankful for You stamp. And then this is the little sentiment that we're going to be using, the little sentiment panel. So let's open up that ink pad. And I will try and line this up. It's pretty easy because it's see-through. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to add this to the card base with some dimensional adhesive. I just thought this little panel was so pretty for that tiny little sentiment. So we're just going to add this here. And I think I will add it right up here. Just like this. Just like that. And then we're going to use some of the little tiny leaf die cuts that I cut using that little die. And I'm going to be using my tweezers here. And just put a little dot of glue on there. And just add some leaves to the wreath. And if you have tweezers, it does make it a little bit easier because they are so tiny. You could really do this in so many different color schemes, and it would be pretty no matter how you did it, really. These leaves are Calypso Coral. So I'm just adding them on here. And there's two different sizes. They're kind of a bigger one and a smaller one. I'll add this last one here. Like that. So that's kind of the stamps and the die cuts. So now we're going to embellish this a little bit. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to add a little linen thread bow. And I'm going to trim that off with my scissors here. And I'll add this with a mini glue dot. I'm just going to put the center of the bow, the little knot there, on the glue and then pick it off. And I'm going to add it to my wreath right under the sentiment here at the base of the sentiment, like that. And then I'm going to trim this so that it doesn't hang off the card like that. And then I'm going to add some other embellishments, some of these little in-color jewels, because I'm using the Pale Papaya. I thought it'd be fun to add some of these little jewels. So I'll probably use some of these yellow ones that are kind of mimic the Pale Papaya. And I'm just going to add them to the wreath. You're not going to see them a lot. I mean, there's other gems you could probably use to create this. But what's pretty about this is it does add a real pretty sparkle. I'll put one on here too, like that. Just like that. And then I've added a few of them. Maybe I'll put a couple more down here. Just to add some shine onto the wreath. So now you can kind of see little glints of sparkle when you look at the wreath. It's actually very pretty. I like it. But you could use other gems as well. You could use gold gems. You could use clear gems. They would be really pretty on it. But it's just kind of a very simple, sweet design, I think. And I think the layering of the die cuts really helps bring this to life. So I hope you enjoyed the card for today.